We must have heard such facts multiple times that Facebook was built by Mark Zuckerberg and a couple of his friends in their dorm room. And we might have heard similar stories around Instagram and WhatsApp. All these founders were not Indian folks. Now, why was it so? It is so because people in India who are pursuing computer science in some finest colleges entered into those courses through some tests which didn't have computer science as a judgmental criterion. And moreover, in India, people don't see software dev as an amazing superpower to create something and launch it and make money out of it. Rather than they just think it as a tool to enter into a FANG company. Now, there are many such problems around this, and I can go on and on such problems, but that's not what we do generally in such videos, right? So let's get straight into the video.
So in this video, we're going to explain you how you can build an application like WhatsApp. We're taking the example of WhatsApp, but the principles or the concepts that we are going to discuss in this video will remain the same for every application that you see on the Play Store or maybe the App Store. To make things easier, let's compare an application with a restaurant. In a restaurant, there are majorly three parts: the customer who eats the food, the cook who prepares the food, and the waiter who serves the food and manages the place. Just like that, an application has three parts: the front end, the database, and the networking thing. Also, you might have heard about the back end. So let me tell you, database plus networking thing is what we call back end. Let's dive a little bit deeper in these concepts.
The front end is basically the customer of the restaurant who consumes the food once it is prepared and given to him. Now, it might not make sense, but what I'm trying to say is front end is basically anything that you can see on your laptop screen or your mobile screen and you can interact with. These are the buttons, the UI that you are able to see on your favorite apps like Instagram and WhatsApp. Everything that you can see and interact with is called the front end. Now, front end generally consists of two parts. It can either be a mobile app or it can be a website. Now, you might have heard that websites are built with HTML, CSS and JavaScript, the front end part, and the front end of mobile apps is built with Java or Kotlin for Android apps and Swift for iOS apps. But in the current days, the time to ship the products, how fast your product is shipped in the market, is a really essential factor for the success of the company. So there are many frameworks that have been built on these languages in order to make the process more seamless, easy and fast for the developers.
The most serene thing would be to build the majority of your application with minimum effort. For this, you must go with the framework that supports cross-platform development. Now, this means that you don't have to write separate code files for Android and iOS. You just write one file and that holds good for all other OS. Now, while there are many cross-platform frameworks, we recommend learning Flutter or React Native. Now, because we really believe in the concept of leveraging, you can learn React to build websites, and then you can go on to learn React Native, which is basically React for building cross-platform applications, and then build applications for iOS and Android. Or you can go on to learn Flutter, a framework that is developed by Google, and you can build applications for iOS and Android, as well as building web apps, which are interactive websites. Now remember that Flutter and React both are only for developing the front end part of your application. So at the end, it's your decision. You can choose any one from Flutter or React. Both are good, and you can do a little bit of research on the internet to find which one suits good for you.
Now, the second part of software is database. Now, database is like the kitchen or the chef who prepares the food for you. It's kind of a place where all the data is stored. Now, what do I mean by that? For example, you send a message on WhatsApp and the next time you open the app, you see there is nothing, there is no message sent. You set up a beautiful profile picture of yours on Instagram and the next day you see there is no profile picture on Instagram. Now basically all the data that gets thrown into these apps, where is it actually stored? It's stored in a very meaningful way in databases. Now there are broadly two types of databases: SQL databases and NoSQL databases. There are some small differences between both the kind of databases. We personally use PostgreSQL database for all our projects, not because it's the best, just because we have our hands already dirty in it.
It's always a matter of discussion whether you should choose the SQL database or the NoSQL database. Talking about the big giant companies, they use multiple databases. Sometimes they use the SQL one and sometimes they use the NoSQL ones. So it's always better to have an idea of both the type, and you should be comfortable in using at least one of them. This doesn't mean you have to be a master in database, but you should at least know the basics of schemas and basic queries.
Now, the third part of the software is networking. Networking is kind of the waiters or the ecosystem or the ambience of the restaurant that you sit in. Now, if you give it a thought, the butter chicken that you get served in some 5-star restaurant and the ones that you get served in a dhaba, generally there is no difference in taste between these platters, but what's the factor that decides the price? It's the ambience, it's the ecosystem that we get in such restaurants. Now, basically, whenever you click on a mobile app or a website and you see some changes, you see something happening, you see something magical happening, all those credits goes to the API. Now, the API is kind of the waiter who brings all the data from the database and shows it in a very meaningful manner in the front end.
You can call APIs as the smart logic which remains under the hood. For example, if you're using the Instagram app and you press on the like button, the front end gives this information to API. The API then transfers this information to the database so that the like on that particular post increases by 1. And when it happens, the API then again conveys this back to the front end, and the increased like is then reflected in the application. This is the place where all the magical things happen, such as the authentication, the encryption, the increased increment of likes, the posting of comments, and everything else that you can imagine of. Now for API 2, you can choose multiple frameworks such as Django by Python, Rails by Ruby, or Express by Node.js, or you can even use Java or PHP for this. But you need to choose one of these and start implementing it on the projects so that you can get practice and an in-depth idea about that framework, because API is really important.
Now, the app or the website that you're able to see is the front end, and the database and the API combined is the back end. After learning all the stuff that we told, you can definitely build any product you want in the world. Now, that might sound magical, right? But you can't definitely clone WhatsApp. You can't build a complete copy of WhatsApp. You can't definitely build a complete copy of Instagram, because there are loads and loads of features and there are tons of engineers who are working on each and every feature, building the user experience that it is right now. But you can definitely build the core features. You can definitely build a sort of a crappy copy of WhatsApp. You can sort of build a crappy copy of Instagram, and you can kind of build anything that you want practically. Now, the second thing that you need to keep in mind is there will never be a point after learning all this that you are going to open the code editor and just press something on the keyboard in some manner and just start building the app. That's not going to happen. You're probably going to spend more time on Google rather than your code editor if you're a noob like us. And if you gain a lot of experience, probably you will Google less stuff, but at the end of the day, you will always end up stucking in problems and Googling out the solutions. This is not about rote learning. You don't need to learn all the syntax, all the functions. We might be knowing like 10% or 20% of all the stuff that is available, but that 20% lets us to build 90% of the stuff that we want to build, just because we know what to Google at the right point of time.
Now, this might be a little bit overwhelming for the people who are actually new to this, but a few months ago we were also new to this, and we have almost gave around a month in the discussion of what we should learn and what we should filter out. So if you're watching this video seriously, this video can save around a month for you in choosing what to learn and what to not. The path that we would have taken if we were absolute beginners is we would have started with HTML, then CSS, then JavaScript, so that we get an idea of the web development thing, and then we would have learned Node.js and then React and React Native, so that we get an idea of building the front end part of the application. And then we would have learned Express.js for building the API thing, and then we would have learned MongoDB plus PostgreSQL. You can choose any one of these, but having an idea of both of them would surely help. It's all about creating tables and generating efficient queries. And to make our code more efficient, we would have done the data structures and algorithm things for around half an hour or an hour daily. These things, coupled with a little knowledge of deployment of application on Play Store or App Store, would make you what we call a person a full stack developer, meaning you know building all the three parts of your application and you also know how to deploy your application. So if you follow this seriously, this is going to take around 4 to 5 months of your time, and in between you are going to build many projects which is going to boost your confidence, and at the end of learning all of these, you would be able to build any application. Take for example Facebook, WhatsApp, or even Telegram on a small scale, all by your own.
Now, we are not pros in the topics or everything that we said, but we kind of have an idea and we know how to build stuff. And we also face the same problems as you guys face, and we always strongly believe that a beginner is always a better teacher than a master, because we faced the very similar problems of what to learn, all this stuff. We were overwhelmed just a couple of months ago. So we thought, why not make a video of giving out the knowledge or the insight of how actually a software product works, how everything integrates, and what to learn when there is so much to learn. Small side note, if you liked the video that you watched and want the information in a clear, concise and crisp manner, then just hit the link in the description. It will take you to the Deep Stash summary of this video. You can follow us on Deep Stash by the name Learnsters if you haven't downloaded Deep Stash yet. And if you like the way we present and the information that we share with you, do press the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel and all that regular jazz. And if you are still here, then drop a relieved face emoji in the comment section. That will make our day.